welcome back to the final episode of Season 4 of HR as the White Swan. I'm Elliot Clark, the CEO of HRO Today. We publish HR Today magazine, HRO Today EMEA, HR Today APAC, and host the HR Today forums held around the world, as well as manage the HRO Today Association. HR is the White Swan, and now, as I said, we're in Season 4. Is sponsored by Madison Performance. Madison Performance is one of the most highly rated and, by the way, largest providers of reward and recognition services in the HR software, service, and technology marketplace. Madison Performance provides rewards and recognition programs to some of the largest companies in the world. And we're joined today by their Senior Vice President, Judd Weisgal, who's got more than a decade of experience advising some of the largest companies in the world on their reward and recognition programs. Before I welcome Judd, I just want to comment on, we complete Season 4. We started this at the beginning of the global pandemic. As we are recording this, it is, vaccination programs are underway across the developed world, and we are, now can cautiously look forward to the end of that. But this pandemic is just an example of a black swan event. You get them all the time. Bad earnings reports, company scandal, a product recall. Organizations are constantly dealing with events that can drain energy, enthusiasm, and productivity. And that's where the White Swan comes in. It's up to HR to bring that positive energy to the organization, to re-engage, revitalize, and ignite everyone's passion about the company and their mission. So as we close out Season 4, we want to talk about where things are going. So, Judd, welcome back to the podcast. We're looking forward to doing the season finale. Hopefully we'll have a big cliffhanger like a Marvel movie or something like that. But welcome back.
Thank you. It's been great fun this season.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about navigating the future. So each of the questions I put to Judd, or the theme, relates to the letters in the words White Swan. We're up to N as we are in the final episode. So N is about navigating the future. And Judd, as they say in Julius Caesar, there comes a tide in the affairs of men. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, I should say. Comes a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads on to glory. So, as we look at navigating the future, where is the tide taking us?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a few ways that we need to look at the future. The first is we need to look at the future broken down into short-term and long-term. Short-term and long-term of every one of our listeners with respect to their program. In the short term, I hope that over this whole season, what they've learned and are now excited about and interested in and exploring in the short term is really challenging themselves and their organization to do more, take more action, instill more programs, find what I will term fair and appropriate budgeting to make sure that the budget is aligned with the goals and objectives, as well as supported from the top down, as we talked about earlier in the season. I also think from a long term, let's call it 1, 2, 3 years out, they need to start thinking about these programs as, what are we really getting out of them? What metrics and ROI can we rely on so that we become a respected part of the business plan, an expected part of the business plan, and one that everyone is looking at and saying, this is money and time and energy well spent because our goals and objectives are being met, our people are happy and engaged, and it's a mission-critical business element. So that's the first part. I think the next piece is sort of technology and the industry as a whole. And so when we look at navigating the future of that, I think technology just keeps advancing and advancing and advancing. We are hearing things from our partners about technology that's just emerging, and they want to know, when will you have it? When will your organization offer things like this? And the answer is, as soon as we all can. We're constantly, this entire industry is constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve, offer that term of bleeding edge versus leading edge technology, right? We want the newest, the latest, the greatest. And it's becoming increasingly important, as we talked about in previous episodes, as the generational change of demographic occurs. And so when we look at this, we have to think, what's the short term? Well, the short term is take a look at your programs and see if they are offering at least current, if not future-looking technology. In the long term, think about application of technology. And even more so, at Madison, we take all of our road mapping, all of our future technology building, we take it from our our partners. We look to them to say, this is what we need. And then we build it, we design it, we utilize the technology to ensure that we're offering for all of our partners these new things. We do it all the time. It's ongoing. That comes from you, everyone listening in the audience. The future is going to come from you. Much like this entire series is based on White Swan and you being that positive influence of change, right? That source of energy and positivity. The ideas are going to come from you as well. When you survey your audiences, when you look at the challenges you're facing, when you share that with organizations like Madison, come to folks like me and say, this is where we want to be in a year. How can you help us? That's the future. The future is together, sharing the ideas, sharing on the technology, leaning on it, build what can be and what can be utilized effectively to navigate. And then I think the final piece of it is the industry, depending on your organization, is to some extent shrinking. When I look at organizations and they are bigger and bigger and they have more and more global reach and they have more and more specialized needs, the number of potential vendors for any specific company used to be limitless. Now what you'll find is that there are good fit companies for each individual organization. And as the future comes as fast as it does, I believe what we will see is more and more each company maybe has a handful of organizations that can truly do the project the way the buyer is intending and envisioning, and it's shrinking. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're taking an active part, and I say we, I mean you, the audience, our HR leaders, take an active part in helping organizations like mine and all of those in the industry stay relevant and ahead of the curve for you on your behalf by consistently talking to us, sharing with us what you're seeing, partnering with us, and helping us know what you need so we can grow together and be there for you. It's the Gretzky quote, right? Right, Elliot? Skate to where the puck is going to be, right? We want to do that for you, and that requires constant conversation so we can navigate the future together.
You know, Judd, all great points. And, you know, as we look to the future, there's a lot really changing right now. In the last few years, we've had international lockdowns across many, many different nations. We've had organizations retreat from the office. We have organizations that had quote unquote frontline worker responsibilities, things like that. So some companies are still wrestling with whether or not they're going to and how they're going to return to work. Some portion of the workforce might, be remote, and that changes the entire calculation. We've also exposed a whole, particularly younger generation, to different patterns of work, and through using these collaboration tools like Zoom, like Slack, like Teams. So as companies think about managing culture in that new gestalt that's going to exist after 2020, how can they rely on companies like Madison, or some of the other top tier providers and rewards and recognition? What can you guys bring? Because this is new for everyone in terms of perspective. There are also companies that have always been remote, and many of them may be your clients. So how can you sort of spread that knowledge and experience around to companies that are wrestling with this?
I think the biggest thing that we as companies like us can offer is sort of a repository approach. And what I mean by that is using the technology to connect all of the other technologies that you're now utilizing as an organization in a time of disconnect that will likely extend and become part of our future way. No matter how much we quote unquote return to normal or we return to a new normal, you just hit on something that I have been talking about with countless HR leaders, which is some folks don't want to go back to the office ever. They've experienced a taste of working from home and they love it. You have some that can't wait to get back to the office. They can't stand working from home and they can't wait to get back. But regardless, we're going to have a challenge with all of that in terms of connecting all these folks and then connecting all of the services and benefits that we offer so that it can all come together in a meaningful way. And I think when you have technology like what we offer and like what some of our peers offer, what you have is the ability to create a repository of all services. Connect to your payroll, connect to your HRIS, connect to your wellness partner, connect. And then those connections all lead to the ability to bring everything together even though we may be physically apart, even though we may be in different locations. And look, that's not new. Big companies are used to having colleagues work in a different country or in a different state or even in a different location. But now I think it's just a bit different, and it's a bit more important than it may have ever been before to ensure that we're using the technology to connect the people and the services that you have and bring them all into the fold.
All right, very good. I think these are all important points, and we look to an uncertain future, but the future is always uncertain. What we really look to is just change. Change is all how you manage it, right? So I'm optimistic, that the world will not only change, but will change for the better. I want to thank Judd Weisgal, the Senior Vice President of Madison Performance, for his sage advice across these 9 podcasts as we've, wrestled with how do you manage your ROI, how do you deal with current challenges, how do you get executive buy-in, all the things that the people in the audience deal with every day. And now, how do you navigate the future? Because whether you're ready or not, the future is coming, as is the future of this podcast series. And we're looking forward to some format changes to spice things up in the next season. So thank you once again. I'm Elliot Clark. Thank you, Judd, for taking part in this wonderful series for our practitioner audience. And we look forward to you joining us next season.
To listen to additional podcasts in the White Swan series, visit www.madisonpg.com. On their website, you can also speak to Judd Weisgal to discuss this topic or to speak to him about your rewards and recognition program.